The option to record it locally.
Does it give, more pause record? Can we see the thing?
Yep.
Okay. What I'm going to discuss is some of the discussions that is happening in the periphery of the mainstream economics. In economics profession, they call these ideas as puzzles of puzzles. When something when the real world does not explain that economics says economic theory predicts, then they call it puzzle, but we may call it a delusion. So one of the important delusions is this is called the Easterlin paradox. Why is this a paradox? The paradox is economic growth does not increase well-being beyond some threshold. This is actually not very new, but it has become important now. This was found by one person called Easterlin in an important article in 1974. So therefore, it is called the Easterlin paradox. So implication of this is that economic growth does not increase well-being in developed countries at least. This is counterintuitive because what economic theory says is that utility or satisfaction or happiness is a function of consumption, and consumption is related to income. But what he's found is this. This is an update. There are a lot of studies on this. It shows that when the income increases, when the per capita income increases, the mean satisfaction increases, but somewhere around 30,000 pounds, around 38,000 pounds, the happiness does not increase. It is a stagnant. So this relationship between there is a relationship between happiness and per capita income, but beyond a certain level, that relationship weakens, and then up to some time it does not increase. So somewhere around $38,000, I think it is dollars, then it starts declining. So the turning point comes around $38,000 per capita. This is for Japan. Japan has been increasing its per capita income from up to the Second World War. Continuously, it has been increasing till the 90s, but satisfaction has remained more or less constant. So this is for China. Again, they liberalized, their per capita income increased. So we find that initially they cut down on many welfare state intervention to increase the welfare of the people. And then they slightly increase. Then you can see that satisfaction increasing slightly. In India also experienced an increase in per capita income after they liberalized and globalized. The per capita income has increased, but satisfaction has declined. Japan's we already discussed. For UK, again, we find this is an index. Per capita GDP has increased continuously, but life satisfaction has remained more or less constant, does not increase at all. So what the main thing about this Easterlin paradox is that happiness and income are not related in the long run. In the short run, they fluctuate. For example, in the Great Recession, people's income fell and happiness actually fell. So, but it is not true to therefore to conclude that people in poor countries, since they are living in their natural situations, they are very happy. That is also a myth. In poor countries, if you increase the per capita income, their happiness will increase. But now the question is that per capita income, we know it is well settled. Nobody questions this idea of national income. And it is a well settled idea that national income can be measured and per capita income can also be measured. But happiness, how to measure happiness? That is not a well settled, because this is, we cannot observe this. Only we can ask the people and they have to report it, which means people know that they know where they are happy or not. They are the best judges of their state of mind. The US General Social Survey asked these questions. Very happy. This has been there for a long time, this survey. Are you happy, pretty happy, or not too happy? A similar question is there for Eurobarometer survey. Very satisfied, fairly satisfied, not very satisfied, not at all satisfied. Now, in UK, this idea came. David Cameron said that in May 92, the GDP is not a good measure. Therefore, we will have to use something else to measure people, what is happening in the economy. So he said, let us start and something new and improve upon this. And he allocated £2 million towards this project. And this is now part of the annual population survey in the UK. This annual population surveys 320,000 people. And for this well-being question is something more added to this. And it is for this, forming these questions and making this survey, they allocated this 2 million. Now it is being conducted from 2011 onwards. The first result came out in 2012. So this well-being question cover 150,000 people per year. So in UK, we asked these 4 questions. Overall, how satisfied are you with your life nowadays? Overall, to what extent do you feel the things you do in your life are worthwhile? Overall, how happy did you feel yesterday? Overall, how anxious did you feel yesterday? And these people are asked to respond. 0 would be not at all, 10 would be completely satisfied. So in the first result was published in 2012, and it found these main points. 79.9% of the people aged 16 and over rated their overall life satisfaction as 7 or more. 80% of respondents gave rating of 7 or more as worthwhile. The proportion of people rating of less than 5 was 6.6. 10.9% of the people in UK rated their happiness yesterday as less than 5 out of 10. So these were so there was also a difference in the ratings of the people. People aged between 16 and 19 and 65 to 79 reported on average highest ratings. So this means that it is got a U shape, satisfaction, worthwhile, has life satisfaction and worthwhile. If you plot them against ages, we find it has got a U shape, which means when you are young, you are very enthusiastic and you are very dreaming about life. So you are very, very happy. And then as you realize, as you grow, people are generally, you find that your aspirations are not fulfilled, your happiness falls. And then you reach a lower point around 30, 38, and then it starts rising, your happiness. You accept the fact of life and you start rising. And then in the retirement, it is quite high. You accepted your life. But about 80, again, it does not rise. It has got a limit. And that is when your health becomes bad and then you are not very satisfied. Now, this is the result published. The survey is going on, and we find that you can see the Easterlin paradox. Life satisfaction is fluctuating in the short run. So this is from 2011 to 2012. You can see that during the COVID, the life satisfaction actually fell, and then it recovered. So it is fluctuating in the short run, but there is no trend at all. But per capita income has more or less increased during this period. So you can see that. Anxiety also, similar thing we find. So what we find therefore is that GDP and per capita income is not a good measure of what is happening to the welfare of the people. That is the point that we are trying to establish. So what is the other alternative? So they have come out with many other alternatives. What they do is take this GDP and make some adjustment to it. For example, if you take GDP and you look at the damages it does to the economy, so therefore you have to the environmental damages, pollution, etc. Then you have to reduce something. So they think on an average we should reduce 10% from the national income. Some other things that we have to add to the national income is the things that we do, but is not counted, because to be included in the national income, the definition of the national income is that it should be valued. It should have a value. For example, women taking care of the children, parenting has got a value, but it is not added. But it is something that adds value to the people. It increases their happiness. The time we spend with the children when they are young adds happiness, but it is not part of the national income. So we need to add some of these things. And or gardening. If you give out, we make your garden, to tend your garden, you appoint a person to take care of your garden, then the national income increases. But if you take care of it yourself, you are more happy, but it reduces the national income. So we have to consider these pluses and minus, and on overall, the national income will be less. And that is what they want to indicate by this genuine progress indicator. Now you can see that the gross product for the world has increased, but genuine progress indicator has actually flattened out. So that is the main paradox. So the main point from this paradox or this delusion is that empirical evidence shows that this theoretical pillar of mainstream economics is a delusion. Now, what is the policy implication? We need to think of something else, think of an alternative. And that alternative is somehow replace this well-being. So let us see how can we measure well-being? How can we look at the well-being? And that is the point I want to propose here. So basically we said that there is, so GDP is there, but that is one of the major pillar, the macroeconomics we teach is all about measuring the national income, how that GDP grow continuously, and the recession we say is a shock which is suppressing or taking the economy away from that path and put it back to that path. That is about monetary policy and fiscal policy. We can put it back. And so that is, so when something happens to national income, we are worried. Okay, if it is not having that, let us say 3% on an average growth, then we are worried, because GDP affects everything else. If GDP grows, our employment will also grow, our inflation, everything will be all right. That is the idea. So that is refuted by this Easterlin paradox. That is not the only paradox. There are also other paradoxes or delusions. One such is called the Jeevan's paradox. What Jeevan's found is that the efficiency, this was in 1865, we have increased the efficiency in the call use. So then one would expect that overall use of the call will become less. But he found that that is not the case. Actually, we are using more call. That means by using resources efficiently, we can reduce the use of the resources, and we can save the planet. This is the idea. This is one of the idea that is said. Like, for example, we can decouple production from resource use as a feasible strategy. For example, we can accept lower growth and lower standard. So this is not possible, because even if you are using efficiently our resources, we are using more resources. This Jeevan's paradox is not gone away. For example, we have more better cars and more efficient cars, but we have more cars, and that is the CO2 intensity per capita. To produce per capita income, we reduce less. If less, we emit less, but the total emission is increasing. This is what is saying, that a kg per capita to produce per capita GDP, to produce GDP, the per unit, the emission is less, but overall emission is more. So that this idea is called the Jeevan's paradox. Another paradox is delusion of the glory of globalization. This is suggested by one mainstream economist, Robert Lucas. The idea of the globalization was that attracted by low wages, capital will flow into developing countries and the income there will increase. But what we have found is the other way. The capital flows are more between rich to rich country, between the rich countries. And for the poor countries in 2012 received 1.2 trillion, but 3.3 trillion worth of values flowed from developing countries. It's another delusion. Now, there's another delusion is there is no limit to growth. And the idea of the limit to growth is one of the main theme, that rising, that if the economy can grow, and the rising tide lifts all boats. This is, you'll find this is repeatedly says in every economics textbook and all literature. And say if the economy is growing, we will have political and social stability. We'll have reduced environmental degradation. But now it is almost clear that there is, because now another aspect, another point that is said, technology. We'll use the resources efficiently, which we contested already. So therefore, we will become, it is possible to grow. But there is some evidence that limit will be reached by end of the 21st century. Another delusion is environmental Kuznets curve. This was proposed in the 1990s. They suggested this is as a new argument for growth. So they say that Kuznets actually proposed this to suggest about inequality. When an economy grows, first inequality rises, then inequality will fall. So it is like the U shape, first inverted U shape. The poverty curve will be inverted U shape. First it will rise and then it will fall. And the same argument is said for environment, that a country, a poor country, when it starts developing, they have no resources to devote for improving the environmental quality. So they disregard environmental quality. And once they reach some particular per capita income, then they are concerned about environmental quality. So environment is a luxury good. So that is why in developed countries, people are ready, it's a luxury good. They demand environment, clean environment. Poor countries, people don't demand so much environment, a clean environment. So when the income rise, it is reversed. But what we find is something else actually. So this is the Kuznets curve. Environmental degradation will increase when the per capita income rises, reaches a particular level, then it starts decreasing. But actually what we find is like this, that when the per capita income rises beyond a level, then environmental degradation increases. So this is supported by this idea. 10% of the global rich income earners responsible for 36% of current footprint of households, these yards, private jets, etc., who causes this environmental degradation. So another delusion is that growth will, inequality, well-being, etc., will be solved by the invisible hand. So one of the ways in which inequality is measured is a Gini coefficient. So if the Gini coefficient is 1, all wealth is owned by one person in a country. And if it is zero, it is equally distributed. So what we find is that Gini coefficient in the 19th and the 21st century, it has increased. Earlier, the inequality, world inequality, the main cause was the inequality within a country. But during the 21st century, so there it is possible for the people in developing countries to move to relatively developed countries and improve their situation. Now that is not possible. Now, if they want to improve their solution, they have to migrate. So this data shows this inequality global, that inequality between the countries is greater than inequality within a country. Now, according to Thomas Piketty in his book Capital in the 21st Century, he has suggested that the main reason for rising inequality is this philosophy of growth at all costs. It may be possible for us to do something because the way we measure something determines the way we do things. So since we measure and it is well entrenched in our mind, GDP as a good way of measuring what is happening in the economy, we want to increase the GDP / per capita income. If we measure something else, then we use something else, then we will try to achieve that. So this idea of well-being is being put forward by some people. So what are this well-being? Is the good human and physical wealth, greater equality and fairness, good social relationship, and a flourishing natural environment. This idea, this framework comes from ecological economics, happiness studies, and socio-economic determinants of health. So some people have gone ahead and formed this association called Well-Being Economy Partnership. It's a small initiative and taken by these 5 countries: Scotland, New Zealand, Iceland, Wales, and Finland. So these countries have formed this, and they are hoping this will become a competent authority in the future, competent club in the future, and compete with the G7 or G20. So as part of this, New Zealand launched a well-being budget in 2019. This is a new macroeconomic framework for 5 priority areas: mental health, child well-being. So all these are just creating some funds for these activities, but it's not taken mainstream. Iceland adopted a dashboard of 37 well-being indicators to guide national economic policies: educational attainment, mental health, environmental concerns to economic activities. Then in 2019, OECD brought out a working paper, Economic Well-Being, the Economy of Well-Being. They say that well-being is now an idea which we can measure. It has matured. Finland Prime Minister is advocating a 4-day work week. Italy instituted a Well-Being Italy, a coordination unit. So some initiatives are being taken. Now these countries, if you look at the happiness index, we find that those countries that has much welfare, much more taken some of these ideas, those are the countries that are rated high in considered the happiest countries in the world. Now let me conclude this. It is time that we shifted our focus from GDP growth to a well-being economy. However, these discussions are still very much in the periphery of the economic profession. So I will end here. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this discussion.